Peter Schweizer is the author of the book Clinton Cash, and he calls Mr. McAuliffe Clinton's ultimate fundraiser. You know, he's been a very close friend of both the Clintons for many years. He was chairman of Mrs. Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign, been a very close fundraiser, involved and paid by the Clinton Foundation, and is one of the closest advisors the Clintons have. So, Peter, what does this mean, and how serious is it?
Well, you're exactly right, Eric. I mean, when you talk about an insider's insider in the Clinton network, you're talking about Terry McAuliffe. What's interesting about this investigation is the reporting is it's focused on these campaign contributions from a Chinese national who apparently has permanent resident status in the United States, Mr. Wang. What's curious, though, about it is this investigation began last year in May at pretty much the same time that, as Fox News has reported, the FBI also began investigating the Clinton Foundation. If they are indeed just investigating whether Mr. Wang was entitled to make these contributions, a year is a long time to investigate a very simple question like that. So my instincts tell me this is probably part of a broader probe that's looking into the Clinton Foundation and whether there were favors or favorable actions taken for the benefit of people who donated to the Clinton Foundation or political campaigns that were part of the Clinton orbit.
Yeah, we're looking left there at the governor right now having a separate news conference on another issue, and he'll take questions, we think, in a few moments, perhaps, addressing this issue. Let's look at Mr. Wang, Wang Liang. As you say, he's a Chinese national, a Chinese citizen, but he also apparently has permanent residence here in the United States. He gave $120,000 in campaign contributions to the governor's campaign. But he's also apparently, according to reports, given $2 million to the Clinton Foundation, and he's a member of the National People's Congress. And, of course, the Clintons were dogged years ago. Remember those scandals and investigations about potential foreign money from China, specifically being flooding the DNC and the Bill Clinton Defense Fund.
You're quite right about that, Eric. That's exactly right. This goes back to the 1990s. As I point out in Clinton Cash and has been reported by Fox and elsewhere, with the Clinton Foundation and Bill Clinton's speaking fees, the big problem ultimately, I think, is not so much Wall Street or American oil companies or U.S. corporations in general. It is precisely this question of foreign money. So in this case, you have Mr. Wang, who has given the donations to Terry McAuliffe's campaign, also given $2 million to the Clinton Foundation. That's part of a larger constellation that includes, you know, connected firms and political figures in Russia, Nigeria, Kazakhstan, places all around the world. So it fits this pattern that the FBI is investigating, and I think Mr. Wang is an important piece of it.
The McAuliffe spokesman said that these donations were completely lawful, but, you know, potentially, some could say, it could echo Charlie Tree. Remember him? He was the Little Rock, Arkansas Chinese restaurant owner who eventually pled guilty involving this exactly. Let me read you what the Washington Post wrote about Charlie Tree back in 1999. Quote, Yang Lin Charlie Tree entered into a plea agreement with the Justice Department in exchange for telling all in an investigation of improper campaign contributions originating in China. As the conduit for more than $600,000 in contributions to the Democratic National Committee that had to be returned as coming from illegal or suspect sources, Tree has long been viewed as a potential font of information on whether the Democratic Party or White House officials knowingly accepted improper funds on an alleged effort by the government of China to influence the presidential election. Now, we don't, as of this moment, know if this potentially also applies to Mr. Wang, but what's your guess?
Yes, that's exactly right. Here's very clear. If he has permanent resident status, he can contribute to U.S. campaigns. What he cannot do is act as a conduit for foreign funds that he then represents as himself. It's not clear that that's what he did, but it seems to me it's quite curious that the FBI has been looking at this reportedly for a year, and the report is that they're simply looking at this question of whether he was qualified to make this donation. I think they're looking at something larger, that this is part of a larger question of foreign money being used to influence American politicians and particularly the Clintons.
Yeah, and apparently at the center of this, the Clinton Foundation owed the millions that they received. Peter Schweizer, we thank you very much for your insight right now. And if the governor, who you see on the left, does address this issue and this reported investigation, we will bring that to you live. Any comments about this controversy? Peter, thank you.